First, I'd like to say a universal peace to everybody who's watching this program in Europe, and especially to the Universal Zulu Nation all over Europe. This is Brother Afrika Bambaataa. I grew up in this vicinity, this community. This is James Monroe High School. This is a big mural, which is made by the TAC crew, which is Brim Bio, Fat Joe, a couple of other people that's down with the TAC crew. And I grew up in the Bronx River neighborhood houses, which is to the right side of us, as you will see, the buildings, which we call the land of Zulu, people of heaven.
And how did you experience your youth here growing up in this area?
Well, basically, being a little tot, growing up, in an age where they had the civil rights, the human rights, seeing drugs, things that was going on in the Black and Latino community, as well as watching all the TV to see what was going on around the world with the Woodstock era, the flower power, the LSD movement, the human rights movement, hearing Malcolm X, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Louis Farrakhan, hearing things by John Lennon, Sly and the Family Stone, the Beatles, all the Motown sound, Brother James Brown. It was a big sight in life, seeing things that was happening on the street, changes through the 60s.
I believe that you were a person that always believed in changing things and creating new things. As far as I know, when you were at high school, you founded, a gang called The Organization. Can you tell me how you came up with that idea and how this organization was made up?
Well, basically, we wasn't in a gang called The Organization. We was in a gang called the Black Spades. And from the Black Spades, we became the organization. The organization consisted of many ex-gang members from different areas, and we pulled them all together and we just call it the organization, meaning that we stood for truth, and only when problems came to us, then we was taught to fight like hell. And from the organization came the Zulu Nation.
Okay, can you maybe go back in time and tell us how the Black Spades were formed? What was the idea behind this? How did they differentiate from other gangs that were around in this area?
Well, the Black Spades was a terrorized gang that didn't take no mess from nobody. If you mess with them, they would definitely attack you back. They was about, against drugs that was happening in the community. They was, taking out drug dealers as far as they could see them. But they was also having a lot of problems terrorizing other different places in the city, in different communities. But they was one of the most organized black gangs throughout the late 60s, early 70s. And a lot of politicians came down and met with the Black Spades, the Savage Skulls, the 70 Mortals, the Javelins, the Turbans, and a lot of things got changed. There was many trips, there was many funds put into the community because of the organization of the Black Spades and the Savage Skulls and the Savage Nomads and so forth.
But you are the one who actually founded the Black Spades, is that right?
I'm not the founder of the Black Spades. The founder is by the name of the Lucky Seven, which was Monk, Guru. You had Spanky, Blackie, Snoopy. You have a lot of these great brothers who was from the Bronx there area, and we came from the Bronx River part of the Black Spades. And I was one of the head spokesmen and leadership in the Black Spades at the time. Once the Bronxdale chapter started fading down, it was the Bronx River chapter that kept it going. And from then on, we changed on into other organizations like the organization, the Zulu Nation, the Almighty Zulu Nation, and the Universal Zulu Nation.
I see, but why did you decide to get active in the Black Spades and not somewhere else? How did you come into this organization?
Well, at that time, when we was youth, running around, going through our progressive changes in life, there was many gangs throughout the city of New York. There was over 20,000 members in many different type of street gangs in the city of New York, and it's well documented. There's many books about the early street gangs of New York City, and there was many groups who came down to speak to us to try to calm down the terror that was going on with a lot of the street gangs, the violence. We had groups like the Nation of Islam. We had the Black Panther Party who came and spoke to many of the street gangs. We had the Ansarul Allah community who came and talked to many of the street gangs. Many Christians groups came to speak to a lot of the street gangs at the time. So, you know, through all this involvement and seeing what was going on and the breakdown and the crackdown with the police department and many other things that was going on, it needed to be another change of direction that was happening to going in the Bronx. So that's when the birth of hip hop came about with the father of hip hop, Cool DJ Herc, with myself, the Godfather, and also Grandmaster Flash. Thus came this new birth of movement that started happening in the Bronx, and that was called hip hop.
But I think the Black Spades, they formed before hip hop was even, or hip hop was just starting. Was
Yeah, the
it not?
Black Spades was way before hip hop. All the street gang
Yes.
movement was way before the hip hop.
So, is there, what made you come into the Black Spades? I mean, was there a person? What were the key personal experiences to join the Black
Well, basically,
Spades?
I've been in many different organizations. I was a Savage Snowman, a 70 Immortal, a Savage Spade. When I came into the Spades, it was the unity and the organization that they had within the Black Spades. Nobody messed with the Spades. And at the time, they was doing a lot of things. And I liked the idea when they was getting rid of the drug dealers in the community, and I was with that. So I definitely joined the organization called the Black Spade.
Okay, you mentioned the unity. Could you focus on that a little bit more and describe what makes the
Well, the unity was like a strong brotherhood, sisterhood in the Spades. We would look out for each other. We go on trips together. Anybody mess with us, we mess with them. If anybody attacked us, we attacked them. We had a strong family type of feeling within the Black Spade community. And from then on, it went into other changes.
You told me that you were fighting against the drug problem, but I believe that back in the 70s the drug problem was different than today. Could you say something about that?
Well, in the 60s, you had your dope and heroin, your LSD, your what they were calling reefer at the time. Each different age they changed it from reefer to chronic to Buddha to all these different names they keep giving it. And in the 70s, the thing that was happening at that time was cocaine and dust. And then going from the late 70s to the early 80s became this new type of chemical type of thing, which was called crack, which came about in the mid 80s. So there was always some type of thing that the powers that be that was cooking up in their scientist lab to get to the people out there, the poor people or other people in general. Like cocaine was supposed to be a rich man type of drug high, and then the crack supposed to be a cheaper poor man type of high. So, my thing is I never had an understanding why all these many people always needed drugs, just to psych your mind out. If you wanted to act crazy, just act crazy. Whatever God gave to you, that's what he put in your body. You felt like screaming, scream. You want to get crazy, take your clothes off, run around in concerts and all that, just do it. So, a lot of people, they took drugs and stuff just to get hallucinated and to go other places and say that they seen other things that they couldn't see with reality, with the hallucination that was happening in their mind with the drugs. So came all these different things that the scientists was cooking up to give to the people of the United States as well as the world. So that's why we have a drug-infested world today, which is a plot and a plan to bring destruction against people of all races, nationalities, and religion.
So I believe you've always been somebody who has taken artists from your community, writers, breakers, DJs, and put them in your community of the Black Spades and of the Zulu Nation. How did this start?
Well, basically from hearing peoples and hearing the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, and the Black Panther Party, and hearing a lot of the records that Sly and the Family Stone was telling you. He was telling you to stand when nobody else was speaking about standing. He was telling you you can make it if you try. He was dealing with racism about nigger and whitey. He was telling you to sing a simple song. And yes, we are everyday people. Sly played a big important role on me, and also the Godfather of Soul, James Brown, would say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. At that time, black people was going through their changes. They were Negroes, they was coloreds, they was everything but themselves. And with the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the songs of Sly and the Family Stone and James Brown, a lot of this stuff stuck into my mind. And then hearing songs of John Lennon when he broke away from the Beatles, which he got more radical, like Power to the People, Instant Karma, Imagine, a lot of these type of songs stuck into my mind. Then seeing the movie, Virgin of Woodstock, start, hearing Country Joe McDonald fixing to die about Vietnam War, and Santana doing soul sacrifice at a young age, and hearing all these Motown songs and these powerful educational songs that was giving message to the people. Curtis Mayfield, Isley Brothers, a lot of these songs started sticking to my mind. And then the big change came when I seen this movie called Zulu, which featured Michael Caine in it. And seeing this at a time when we were seeing degrading roles like Tarzan, or cartoons like Heckle and Jekyll showing black people degrading, looking like jungle bunnies with bones in their mind, and calling Africa the dark continent, whereas in fact Africa is the first civilization on the planet, was a big, strong message to me to say, hey, our people did something. Something's going on. Who was putting all these lies and falsehoods about Africa at the time? And to see these Zulus fight for a land which was theirs against the British, stood with me. So I said, as I grew older, I would make me a Zulu Nation, which would include black, brown, yellow, red, and white people, human beings from all nationality, walks of life, and religion. And thus we have the Universal Zulu Nation, which is internationally known, and hopefully with all the aliens running around the planet and through the universe today, that it might become universally the Universal Zulu Nation, meaning like if anybody from Mars, Jupiter, Venus, whatever, or these new planets that they just found in our solar system, there was the doggone people in Africa who told them many years ago about Sirius, the star, that they didn't believe, but now they finally have seen the star. They have seen other planets now in the solar system, which changes up our whole scientific things about the galaxy in which we live. So, and there's a lot of people who definitely believe that we are not alone in the universe. And there's many people who believe there are UFOs and aliens which are on this planet right now in the planet. And if you read your biblical history in the Bible, you will see all through the Bible, it was little mentions of UFOs or alien beings upon the planet walking among men and women.
But still, your work right now is concentrated also very much in this area, in your neighborhood.
It's not just in this area. My work is concentrated worldwide. It started first in this community.
It started in this community, and you are very influential in this community. Can you tell me something here about this community? How is it structured, and what do people get from you here?
Well, this is basically the Southeast Bronx, part of the whole big unit of the South Bronx. And is my side of the area is what you have a lot of housing development projects or houses. Whereas back in the early days of hip hop, you used to hear all this stuff like the message, broken glass everywhere, people pissing on just showing negativity in the South Bronx. But that was one little area of the South Bronx. That wasn't this part of the South Bronx, because this was a good part where blacks and Latino and whites lived cool together. You might have your little racial type of things every now and then, but then it was more unity and peace happening, especially when we started bringing about hip hop and when we started going down to the village to start playing at the rock clubs. Whereas the punk rockers was the first of white people to first accept hip hop in their communities, who started traveling out of their communities to come to the black and Latino communities to party among black and Latino people. So we give props to all the punk rockers who was true to open-minded and who opened up, and who later on they became new wavers, and they was coming up at the same time hip hop was coming up. So they both was mingling together at a lot of functions and parties, and people was learning to dance to the music, like Sly Family says, and Uncle George Clinton says, One Nation on the Groove, which we played at the Roxy's, the Bronx River Community Center, Junior High School 123, over to Negrils, to the rock pool, the rock clubs, all the different things, and all us came together as one whole community, just traveling from the Bronx to Manhattan, from Manhattan to Queens, all around the tri-state area, New Jersey, Connecticut, and thus hip-hop, punk rock, new wave started stretching, starting from CBGBs with the punk rock, starting from Bronx River Neighborhood Center and the West Side with Kool Herc with the hip-hop, and the South Bronx with myself and Grandmaster Flash. Now you had Universal Music, which was hip-hop and punk rock and new wave, which was traveling internationally all over from America to London, all over to the rest of Europe and the rest of the world.
But as you just said, hip-hop came up eventually. You just described how it came up with you and what influences came on you that you started becoming interesting in making music and doing hip hop. So it didn't fall from the sky. Could you maybe tell us in this neighborhood, by the end of the 70s, maybe what this overall street scene was like, how it came up and how it became big. Who started with it apart from you?
Well, the father of hip hop is definitely Cool DJ Herc. And it started in the West Bronx, not the South Bronx. The West Bronx is where hip hop has started with Cool DJ Herc. It came way to the South Bronx through myself, Afrika Bambaataa, and Grandmaster Flash, as well as Disco King Mario, Cool DJ D, and a couple of others, the Funky Four, plus one more. Then it got pioneered through DJ Breakout, through Cool DJ AJ, the Treacherous Dree, Dougie Fresh. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And thus came all the early birth of hip hop groups. Then came the rap music into the industry. First, we started with our own cassettes, which was like our own albums. We would play from like 9 to 4 in the morning, sometimes 9 to 6, sometimes 6 to 6. And each cassette was like your album going out to the community. And we used a lot of luxury cabs and a lot of family to send the tapes to. You could have cousins in different parts of the city, in other states, and that's how the hip hop started spreading out. And then eventually the record community came to pick up the hip hop groups.
But what also interests me, what happened here on the streets? I mean, you just said you sent your tapes to your cousins and to your friends, but what happened here on the street? Did the kids, did you have sound systems here on the street? Did the kids try to copy you or make?
No, we had big sound systems that we had in the community centers, all in the many high schools and junior high school gymnasiums that we played in. And we also had a lot of battles. Sometimes you could lose your whole system and your records if you didn't have a crew or organization to back you up, to keep you safe from another type of group to take your system. And in the summertime, like when it's warm like it is today, could be playing in a big park like this, in a high school park, or in a housing community park. We would hook up to the lamp poles. That's what's only in the summer times, not in the winter time. We was back inside in the gymnasiums or the high schools or the colleges doing the hip hop thing. Then eventually we moved from the gymnasiums to the clubs downtown, in the Village and in Manhattan.
You just mentioned the battling. Could you explain, please, how this battling works? What happens during a battle?
Well, sometimes a person who had a powerful system, you could play at the same time, and the person that had a more powerful system would drown your system out. And then I took to, myself to stop that battling at the same time, where each person got an hour. Meaning you would play an hour with your system and the other person would play an hour with their system. This way it would give the people a better chance to hear it better, to hear the music you was playing, to see your skills, to hear your rapper's skills, and to see who could rock the party with the music that you was playing for the people. And that's how a lot of people started following whoever was out there, and a lot of the different DJs started getting their own fans and followers, following wherever they go. Sometimes we used to have it where you didn't even have to put out flyers to say where you was at. Kool Herc could be playing on the west side of the Bronx, and he could have 3, 4, 5, 6,000 people. Myself could be over here, and I could have 3 to 4, 5, 6,000. Grandmaster Flash could be in another area and have 3 to 4, 5, 6,000. Then as the hip hop started getting bigger, you could have hip hop that was happening in Harlem, happening in Roosevelt, Long Island, happening in Yonkers, New York. It was happening all over the place. And then eventually we stopped moving to bigger venues downtown.